after that and watch her try to continue to progress, because I like her game. Obviously, she wants to get better than where she is now. She's got a lot of good hand-eye coordination and ability to take the ball early and redirect. But the fan stuff is always fun for me, because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get up to the top.
The biggest match in Miami was never the final, and that is exactly the problem nobody wants to admit. Two global stars walked into a championship that should have sold out in minutes, yet their real energy had already vanished days earlier. Ticket prices dipped, the buzz faded, and fans quietly checked out. So what changed so suddenly? And how did one unexpected player manage to outshine an entire final without even being there?
Of course, I see some of the things, but for some reason, I see more negative than positive about myself. So I try not to really look deep, and whenever I see my picture or something about myself, I go to the next one, because I don't know, like sometimes people just being rude and mean, like to all of us, and I feel like it just doesn't really worth reading and going through.
If Eala's game excites you as much as it does us, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for every epic moment. The moment the Miami Open Women's Final was announced, something felt off. And not in a subtle way that only die-hard tennis fans could notice, but in a loud, unmistakable silence that echoed through empty seats, unsold tickets, and a level of indifference that no one expected for a championship match featuring two of the biggest names in the sport.
She works hard. Yes. That's why we like her, because she's the face of the Philippines.
Just aside from her talent, she's also thinking of the future.
I've only dreamed of making tennis grow in the Philippines, and now I'm bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world.
So when Eala plays, we all get together and we all watch her support her as a group of people.
Are there actual gatherings?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Really? Oh yeah.
Okay.
We plan our dinner.
On paper, this final should have been untouchable. You had Aryna Sabalenka, one of the most dominant power hitters in modern tennis, facing Coco Guaff, the young superstar who has been marketed as the future of the game for years. This was supposed to be a dream matchup, the kind broadcasters circle months in advance, the kind sponsors throw money at without hesitation.
It's going to be an important match for both women. They're going to be both defending a lot of points coming up for the clay season, so this win can do a lot for them padding their points. Guaff, she wants to win this tournament badly. She said it before. It's her home WTA 1000 tournament, and she's going to be seeking her first title of the season and her fourth WTA 1000 and 12th career WTA title overall. Aryna, meanwhile, is looking to become the 5th woman in the Open era to complete the Sunshine Double, winning Indian Wells and Miami in the same year.
And yet, something was missing. Or more accurately, someone was missing. Because just days before that final, the entire atmosphere in Miami had been hijacked by a name the tournament organizers never fully prepared for, a player who was never supposed to control the narrative and certainly not the economics of the event. Eala. And the moment she was gone, everything changed.
I'm so scared for Coco Guaff to play this final in Miami against Sabalenka. Sabalenka defeats Rybakina in her semi-final in 6-4, 6-3. And now this was not only a very dominant scoreline by Aryna, she also just played very strong, very hard-hitting tennis, and this makes me scared for Coco. But whenever these two play, it's never boring. And they're currently tied in their head-to-head with 6-all, so both have won 6 matches against each other. Although Aryna Sabalenka did win their last meeting, so let's see what Coco Guaff can do.
At first, the signs were easy to ignore, almost dismissible if you were determined to protect the illusion that everything was running smoothly. Ticket resale prices began to dip slightly, then noticeably, then dramatically. Social media engagement around the final plateaued instead of exploding. Broadcasters who expected a surge in viewership suddenly found themselves adjusting expectations downward. It did not make sense. Or at least, it did not make sense if you believed the traditional hierarchy of women's tennis still dictated fan interest. But that belief had already started to crack long before the final. Rankings were consulted, formulas were followed, and the conclusion was simple. She had not yet earned her place among the elite. But what those numbers failed to capture was momentum. They failed to capture the way fans were already gravitating toward her story, the way her matches carried an unpredictability that made them impossible to ignore, and most importantly, the way her presence resonated far beyond the traditional tennis audience.
It's like, we're not concerned about anyone else right now. It's Alex Eala time. This is Alex Eala's moment. Our days, our dinners, our evenings are fixated on when she's playing. That's real tennis fandom right there. Love it.
$77 a month. Come on, just go get it. I mean, sorry, $77 for the year.
For the year, yeah.
I mean, that's a better.
Come on.
That's a better upgrade than your monthly subscription. You got to go get that.
Have you ever heard of another player other than their family that planned dinners around one tennis player?
Not for me. Just my family.
No, probably not even my family.
Depends what was for dinner, but this is so great for tennis in general.
Yeah.
I think having players like
From the very first round, something unusual started happening. Crowds were not just watching her, they were showing up early, staying longer, and reacting louder. Clips of her matches did not just circulate, they exploded across platforms. Fans who had never followed the WTA closely suddenly had a reason to tune in, not because of rankings or seedings, but because of something far more powerful: connection. And as she kept winning, that connection turned into momentum that the tournament could not control. Each match felt less like a routine progression and more like an event. The stands filled up in ways that lower round matches rarely do. The energy shifted from polite applause to something closer to a home crowd atmosphere, even in a city known for divided loyalties and fleeting attention spans. It showed up in online engagement, where her highlights consistently outperformed matches featuring more established stars. By the time she reached the later rounds, the narrative had already flipped, and that is where the comparison becomes impossible to ignore. Because while players like Sabalenka and Guaff carry massive reputations, their draw has always relied on structure, on promotion, on the expectation that audiences will show up because they are supposed to. Alex Eala flipped that equation.
admirable to see a youngster really step up to the challenge. It looked like she was fading away physically towards the start of that second set, but she fought back. And the fight is something that we're going to constantly see for years to come if she can just keep going on this momentum.
Yeah,
What'd you see, Paul?
She just has an amazing spirit. I mean, the way she fought through that match. And look, it's one thing to win a bunch of big matches in a row. You see the leg taped up. You see her playing a terrific player like Jessica Pegula. And like you said, Coco, there were moments in there where we're like, okay, that's it. I mean, how many times did we get off the couch in the green room and start to walk in here?
People were not showing up because they were told to. They were showing up because they wanted to. And that difference is everything. It is the difference between attention that is scheduled and attention that is earned. It is the difference between a match that is important on paper and a match that feels important in real time. And as long as she was in the tournament, Miami felt alive. Every round she advanced made the event bigger, louder, and more unpredictable. Broadcasters leaned into her story. Commentators adjusted their tone. Even casual fans began planning their viewing around her matches instead of the official schedule. But then came the turning point. Sabalenka versus Guaff should have been a guaranteed sellout, a ratings magnet, a perfect closing act for a major tournament. Instead, it became a case study. A case study in what happens when the player driving organic interest is no longer part of the equation. Ticket sales slowed to a crawl compared to the surge seen during Eala's run. Resale platforms reflected a sharp drop in urgency. The buzz that once dominated social media conversations faded into routine analysis and predictable debates. And that is when the realization started to sink in. This was not just a coincidence. This was impact. The kind of impact that cannot be manufactured, scheduled, or easily replaced.
Gracious to all her fans. She spends time with her fans, signs the autographs, takes the photos, and really just shows the Filipino community that it is all about the Philippines. And I still carry that flag with me no matter where I go across the world. And such a young woman at that has that wisdom of just what it means to play for her country.
Only 20 years old, such maturity, already a hero to her entire nation. I mean, it's basically Manny Pacquiao and Alex Eala, right? I mean,
That's it.
Because what Alex Eala brought to Miami was not just skill, it was narrative gravity. She gave fans a reason to care beyond rankings. She created stakes that felt personal. She turned early round matches into must-watch moments and forced the entire tournament to revolve around her presence. And when she was gone, that gravitational pull disappeared with her, which raises a question the WTA cannot easily answer. How does an unseeded player, one who was not even considered among the top threats at the start of the tournament, end up becoming the single biggest driver of ticket demand, viewership spikes, and overall engagement? And more importantly, what does it say about the current system when that same player was initially treated as an afterthought? Because this is not just about one tournament.it is about a disconnect. Eala exposed that gap in real time. She demonstrated that influence in modern tennis is not just about titles or seedings, but about presence, relatability, and the ability to create moments that people feel compelled to follow. And in Miami, she did all of that without the institutional backing typically required to reach that level of visibility.
You just asked about the switch courts. Well, I was actually shocked that they were considering canceling my match, or they were like giving me a couple options of the stadiums, and I was like, but what's the problem for Alcaraz and Fonseca start later? Because yesterday the night session started at 9 and then Mira was playing, so I was actually like really shocked the idea of like even canceling my match. But I just decided to play today, just so I have, if I win, I have a day off and I have time to prepare, to recharge and everything. But I was actually shocked, to be honest, but I'm happy that they gave me options so I could choose what's the best for me.
Which makes the comparison even sharper. When you look at the final, you are looking at two incredible athletes with established careers, global recognition, and years of investment behind their brands. And yet, in terms of raw pull during this specific tournament, neither of them matched what Eala generated in just a few matches. That is not an opinion. That is reflected in the numbers, in the attendance patterns, and in the shift in audience behavior before and after her exit. It is reflected in the way the tournament felt. And that is the part you cannot fake. Eala gave them that feeling. And once they experienced it, everything else felt quieter, more predictable, less urgent. Which is why the WTA's decision, or more accurately, their oversight, now looks less like a routine miscalculation and more like a missed opportunity to fully embrace what was happening right in front of them. They did not create her momentum, but they also did not recognize it early enough to maximize it. What made this situation even more uncomfortable for the Women's Tennis Association was how visible the contrast became in real time, as conversations online shifted from excitement about who would win the title to a much simpler, almost blunt question: why did it feel like the tournament peaked before the final even began?
Indian Wells just ended, and because tennis never sleeps, we now go to Miami. And guys, I wonder, is the WTA ever gonna give us the graphics quicker? Because we always have to wait for them so freaking long. But I digress. Let's talk about this draw. In this draw, you will see Emma Raducanu, but she's not gonna play because she has pulled out due to an illness. Let's start with the fresh Indian Wells champion and the world #1, Aryna Sabalenka. Now, Sabalenka's quarter doesn't look the worst out of all of the top players, but I'm excited to see Ostapenko in her quarter, as well as Svitolina and Zheng. And to go into more detail about her first match, of course, she's gonna get a bye for the first round, and then she's gonna play either against a qualifier or against Lee.
That question lingered because everyone watching had already experienced the high point, and it did not involve the top seeds, the pre-built narratives, or the carefully structured bracket designed to deliver a predictable climax. It involved Eala. And once he realized that, everything else starts to look different. Because this was not supposed to happen. Tennis, especially at the highest level, is built on order. Rankings define expectations, seedings create pathways, and tournaments are structured to ensure that the biggest names meet at the end, where the stakes are highest and the audience is largest. But Miami flipped that logic on its head. The most compelling matches were not the ones that were planned. What made Eala's impact even more striking was how naturally it grew without the usual machinery behind it. There were no massive pre-tournament campaigns positioning her as the face of the event, no overwhelming media push framing her as a must-watch star, and no expectation that she would carry the tournament's narrative. She simply played, and the audience followed. That kind of organic rise is rare in any sport, and when it happens, it usually signals something bigger than a single tournament run. It signals a shift.
Now, Sabalenka, you should know more than anybody that one of the major tenets in sportsmanship is to win gracefully and to lose gracefully. If you're going to be a champion, you also must lose like one. And minimizing Coco's accomplishment in her French Open title is not going to make the pain any less.
In the past 2 weeks, I played really tough matches, really incredible players, and I played definitely better level than in the final. It was really, honestly, the worst tennis I played in the last, I don't know how many months, and the conditions were terrible, and she simply was better in these conditions than me, and I think it was the worst final I ever played.
And that is exactly what made the ticket situation for the final so revealing, because it exposed the gap between who the system promotes and who the audience actually connects with. On one side, you had Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff, two players whose resumes, rankings, and global profiles make them undeniable stars in every traditional sense. On the other side, you had the lingering impact of a player who is no longer even in the draw, yet somehow still overshadowing the event. That is not normal. And it is definitely not comfortable for an organization that relies on predictability to drive its biggest moments. What makes this even more complicated is that it is not a criticism of the players in the final, because both Sabalenka and Gauff delivered exactly what they were expected to deliver, which is high-level tennis, professionalism, and the kind of performance that justifies their status. And discovery is one of the most powerful forces in sports, because it gives fans the feeling that they are witnessing something before everyone else catches on, something that feels personal, almost like being part of a moment before it becomes mainstream. That feeling cannot be scheduled. It cannot be seeded. And it certainly cannot be replaced once it disappears.
I think this was probably, well, today was a bit more straightforward, but this week has been a lot of long matches, and, through the battles I was having fun, and it is nice to get through in 2 sets today, though.
And boy, did you. Safe to say that Coco's got her groove back. Let's talk about, it has been a struggle. Early departure from Indian Wells, you hurt your arm, but now you're feeling great. You're playing this kind of great tennis. Take us through this journey over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, after Indian Wells, there was thoughts of maybe not playing this tournament.
Which is why the WTA's quiet regret is not just about one decision, but about what that decision revealed. It revealed that the current system, for all its structure and logic, still struggles to recognize momentum while it is happening, and by the time it does, the opportunity to fully capitalize on it has already passed. And that is the real takeaway from Miami. They start looking for it. And if they do not find it, they notice. So now the question is no longer about what happened in Miami, but about what happens next. Because the next time a player like Eala starts building that kind of momentum, will the system recognize it early enough to elevate it? Or will it once again watch from the sidelines as the audience decides for itself who truly matters?